This is Ramallah, the de facto administrative capital of Palestine, situated in the occupied West Bank, a region renowned for arid conditions and water scarcity. Yet Ramallah receives an average annual rainfall of 615 millimetres, which is more than London. Despite this, Palestinians in the West Bank receive an insufficient amount of water to meet their basic needs, roughly 80 litres a day, far short of the 100 litres recommended by the WHO. And in Gaza, the situation is far worse. As a result of Israel's bombing campaign, Palestinians in Gaza can only access between 2 to 3 litres of water a day, and this water isn't necessarily clean or safe to drink. Even before the current conflict, 97% of Gaza's water was unfit for human consumption. In contrast, Israelis have access to an average of 300 litres of clean water per day. This stark imbalance has its roots in how Israel took control of the region's water, and by doing so, created an unprecedented health crisis. Israel controls the two main aquifers in the occupied Palestinian territories, underground bodies of rock which hold large deposits of water. The biggest of these is the mountain aquifer, which spans much of the West Bank and parts of Israel. According to the Oslo Accords, the mountain aquifer was supposed to be managed with an equitable utilisation of joint water resources. But this was never adhered to. Israel takes around 87% of this water for its own citizens. As far back as June 1967, Israeli military authorities set about consolidating control over all water resources, infrastructure and distribution. And the restrictions remain far-reaching. Israel controls the collection of rainwater throughout most of the West Bank. Palestinians are prevented from drilling new water wells, installing pumps, or deepening existing wells. Rainwater harvesting systems owned by Palestinian communities are routinely destroyed by the Israeli army, as are other water infrastructure and facilities. In Area C, the territory of the West Bank under full Israeli control, more than 270 water and sewage facilities used by Palestinians have reportedly been demolished in the past 5 years, on the grounds that the infrastructure is illegal. High demand and limited access for water means that more than 80% of the annual water supply for Palestinians in the West Bank is being purchased from Israel at a much higher cost, even though much of it has been extracted from the mountain aquifer in the occupied Palestinian territory. In contrast, Israelis living on illegal settlements in the West Bank enjoy an ample water supply, allowing vineyards, olive groves, farms and date plantations to thrive. The coastal aquifer runs along the eastern Mediterranean coast, from Israel through Gaza and into Egypt, and is the only natural source of water for Palestinians living in Gaza. But this water is severely polluted due to decades of untreated wastewater as a result of infrastructure damage in past conflicts. Estimates suggest that around 90,000 cubic metres of raw sewage flowed from Gaza into the Mediterranean Sea every day in 2022, making 96.2% of household water undrinkable. In order to make this water source viable, Palestinians relied on desalination and water treatment. But Israeli airstrikes and the blockade of the territory has caused the total collapse of the wastewater network. With no access to fuel or electricity, water treatment and desalination has become almost impossible, and more sewage than ever is leaking into the sea, creating an unprecedented health crisis. 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza are currently surviving on 2 to 3 litres of water a day. To put that in context, a toilet uses around 6 litres for one flush, and a shower uses nearly 10 litres per minute. The number of internally displaced people fleeing the north is rising, and some shelters in the south are only able to provide one toilet per 600 people, and little to no running water. Palestinians in Gaza have resorted to consuming salty water contaminated by rising levels of sewage, and the impact of this is catastrophic. Infectious diseases are spreading, and now that the healthcare system has collapsed, there is little means to treat those who fall ill. Even before the conflict, 1 in 4 children in Gaza suffered from diarrheal disease, which kills more children under 5 living in conflict areas than violence. Israeli airstrikes continue to damage critical water infrastructure in Gaza. 7 water facilities, including reservoirs in Gaza City, Jabalia refugee camp and Rafah, were destroyed or severely damaged in the first week of November alone. Some water wells and desalination plants in southern Gaza are still operational, but the lack of fuel means they have limited capacity and are prone to shutdowns. Trucking remains the main method of water distribution across Gaza, but as airstrikes render roads impassable, this aid route is becoming increasingly difficult to supply.